are part of a great experiment. This is the 7th of 8 breakout sessions that we've had as part of our exercise to develop a strategic vision of how we will live, work, and play in Central Ohio in the year 2050. And your input is very important to that process. We are attempting to get a diverse response from the public, people who are in the development business as well as others, so that we have your ideas, we have your thoughts, we have your creativity on what we should be looking at, what questions we should be thinking about, and what guidance we can give to government and private development as they are looking forward to the year 2050.
As I look forward to the next 39 years, whatever I'm about to say, I'm absolutely certain won't be true. Because in our business, we're seeing such fundamental changes. The idea was that you research on a computer or the internet, you learn about whatever product you want to do or want, and then you go get it. The only unfortunate thing I'd say about that is it's probably the opposite. Meaning that many people in the retail component markets are out looking at certain things and then going home and actually ordering them. We're seeing situations in the electronics business, for instance, that Best Buy is suffering huge financial quandaries because electronics are changing in price so rapidly, changing in technology so rapidly, right? So how do they adapt? Fortunate thing for us in the retail development business is we can't even respond because they don't. What we're trying to look at as we talk to new retailers is we certainly understand before 39 years from now the Taco Bell is being replaced with Chipotle. That as you look at almost every retail category, something's going on that the real 500 unit, 1,000 unit retailers I've really got to look at their model, and they're finding out there's a lot of erosion in their brand, and you turn 59 like I am, you start to realize that now you know why this stuff's all directed at youth, because that's the future. You must be very forward thinking. The things that are happening are not happening in these gradual waves, or if they are, when they actually do precipitate some sort of change is very sudden and very dramatic. In the bookstore business, I cannot tell you what percentage of our transactions are lost because customers will come in, they'll look at the book. For instance, John Gresham would sell for say $28 retail. It actually, by the time Borders Barnes we sell it, it's about $18, and all of John Gresham's books are on Amazon at $9.95. How do you compete with that? So a couple things I wanted to stimulate you with are, you've got to be very, very careful about what you think things are going to happen. And we're fortunately or unfortunately learning with Borders, it doesn't seem as apparent as you think. If you're going to have retail and create good things, you cannot compete with Walmart, and you must stop the pricing strategy that's based upon simply the lowest common denominator of price. If you do that, they will kill you, and you won't be around. As you think about these big things, to tell you the truth, a lot of the problem we're having certainly in retail development is we can't get the city to think outside of the box. So all of our processes, whether I'm bitching at Maleka about getting permits, or the city about allowing certain things, or parking ratios. You work within the city of Columbus, and the parking code for restaurant is absolutely designed for a Taco Bell. And so Joe, I don't know where Joe is, when we do deals in Clintonville, that's all code allows us to do. Is a 3,000-foot box on about 3/4 of an acre with however many parking spaces per 75 feet. Is that what you want? And we have neighbors who show up and go absolutely crazy about it if we want any difference in that. And yet Clintonville Spine, High Street, ought to be one of our most productive and interesting spines. And it's, Joe and his neighbors and Joe Reedy and others are clamoring for stuff to happen. Very, very hard. We're constrained by liquor permits. We just had to create an entertainment district on Lane Avenue in Arlington because Arlington's population is stagnant. More people are eating out. So you can't get a liquor permit. You know, how do you deal with those kind of quandaries? So as we look forward, we are absolutely challenged by the thought of great, big, interesting things. But I will tell you that we get extremely frustrated because there's all sorts of legislative constraints that are in front of us. When we created the great retail centers of the great cities of the world, and I would ask the architects and planners to tell me that I'm wrong, but in most instances, those were just done with the creative juices flowing, and nobody said, I need a bite of that apple to approve it. As a matter of fact, my guess is if you went after some of the great retail centers of the world, and you wiped them off the map, and you asked people to now create them, and then ask people about them, they'd say, I don't want that. German Village. If you look at German Village and you took that code, you gave it to legislators, city council people, they would not pass it. I think we would all agree that German Village is pretty clever and cool. The stuff that's going to happen in retail, the necessities are going to be one part, and then the experience. The Eastons of the world, Easton's not about the value of a Walmart pricing strategy. It's about the value of when you leave, you've been stimulated, and it's caused you to take some sort of action.
Is Easton going to just kind of die off, just like the continent did? I don't think it is. For one thing, it has a lot more solid financial backing, very good planning. The planning team went all over the world to these world-class cities and looked at what was working there. Again, the tenant mix is just phenomenal here. The infrastructure is all in place. One thing I think is real important is that they didn't just build it and just stop. They do a lot of programming and good marketing, which are a couple of things that a lot of developers don't always do. Also, I think it's going to have political support. It generates about $120 million in taxes each year. So I think Easton's still going to be on top. The only threat I can see out there is if you look at the northwest side, you kind of have an old school mall there, Tuttle. And I just wonder if maybe somebody's going to try to build kind of an Easton replica out northwest, like maybe between Marysville and Dublin.
The biggest weakness, in my estimation, for Easton is what happens if the transportation infrastructure changes. And that is, if you notice, there's very little public transportation at Easton. And getting it here, spines that we're thinking about not only don't exist, I'm not sure how you get them here. And so for me, that's the biggest weakness.
Second point I want to talk about is the impact of e-commerce. It's still growing at a pace about 4 to 5 times the growth rate for all retail. The last 2 years it's grown 11%, whereas all retail was 2.5%. So even in a recession, it just keeps growing and growing at a faster rate. And it's starting to have some critical mass. It accounts for 7% of all retail sales as of last year. And I think it's just taken off. There's still a lot of room for growth in terms of apparel, footwear, electronics, health and beauty products, and even groceries. 56.4 million square feet of retail space in central Ohio right now. It's and 50 million of it is occupied, so that's about 11.4% vacancy rate. That's 28 square feet per capita. So anyway, I did a little bit of math and I looked back at some historical statistics. 1970, we had 10 square feet per capita. 1980, it was about 12. 1990, it was about 16. In 2000, it was 23.5. And if you look at total space, it's about 31 million, or 31 per capita as of 2010. So if you extrapolate that out to 2050, it would be like about 98 square feet per capita. I don't think that's going to happen. That would be a total of 245 million square feet. Right now we have 56. My thought is, I think we could compete. I think we're leads me to my third point, and that is a lot of experts are predicting that that once the housing crisis lifts, that a lot of empty nesters are going to move back into the city, and they're going to leave their big home in the suburbs behind. So even though we might not need as much retail space in the future, it's going to be located in different places. So there's going to be a lot of redevelopment that is going to occur, both in the older shopping centers that we leave in the suburbs, but also in central city neighborhoods like like Thurman Village, like Grandview, where there's going to be a lot of redevelopment opportunities.
When you look at retail development and redevelopment, I would agree that there's a lot of public sector folks that have closed minds in terms of regulations and what it takes to do things in this new environment. I work for Franklin County, and we're dealing with retail throughout the county that has different stages of its demise. And we want to do something creative and to promote redevelopment of some of these corridors. What we're finding is just the opposite, that the developer themselves are closed-minded about what's going on and what they should do to reinvest. How can we support that and help them think a little bit more creatively to make things happen?
It is 20 to 25% more expensive to lease downtown because of the parking inflation than to lease in Belmont High. So go back to Curtis's question. Not only do I have developers who maybe, or real estate people who don't want this retail, and retailers who are maybe not quite the strongest financial people in the world, it costs me more to do it. We are at such a disadvantage. Well, that's when, if government wants to change the playing field, you got to get these guys to be low-cost producers. We got to figure out how to do that. I think that if you took and you put down the spine of High Street or down the spine of Broad Street, forget this going on the tracks, because that's why they call it the other side of tracks, and you had a people moving situation that was possibly different than what Coder offers today. It was some sort of train situation or whatever. I just want to be the guy who can buy the stops where you do this. Because we have to get us on the transit system.